during certain times of period. And so that's what they were doing, is they would reference Moses, they would reference Aaron, they would reference, Abraham, and say that my father Abraham suggested this, and based on what Abraham said, then this is what you should be doing. And our writer wants us to understand that while Abraham and Moses and some of these others are great to say that I should strive to live a life akin to that person, I've got someone that's even stronger that you should strive to live like. Let's give his resume. Let's talk about Jesus. Let's talk about the only one who has defeated death. You know that. Again, you had those that said, well, it's impossible for a deity to also inherit flesh. And so there was the argument that if Jesus is supposedly the Son of God and he is a deity, then he couldn't have walked the earth in flesh. And we know that that is false. And you look at the way things are written and all, and we understand that. And so in order for, we know that God gave man dominion over the world, and we talked about the first Adam and Christ being the second Adam. And, if Christ didn't walk in the flesh, of course you've got your enemy and all that would still say, and even not even the enemy would use us to say that, well, he wasn't truly human. And so that's how he was able to do this, is he wasn't truly human. He was a God. He just looked like a human. And so, he, set aside, the deity form, not deity, but he set aside, what's the term I'm looking for? Christ walked in the flesh, but and that's what we need to understand. And instead of people were trying to pick apart different things and saying that, well, for this reason or for that reason, this didn't happen, or this is not full, or we're still looking for a different person. It was said that when he comes, he was going to do this. He's going to be a king. And, well, Christ didn't come as a king. He came, well, did he truly even come as a priest? Because we realize that, through the lineage of priests, he should have been born as a priest. He should have been doing these particular things. And so, always trying to discredit, but we, through man's eyes, we looked at the priest should be wearing a sacred garment. They should be in the sanctuary. They should be performing these rites and rituals. They're the ones that, one time maybe during their life they got chosen to be the one that got in and rolled back the rope, the curtain and all. And so those are the guys who were priests. This guy wasn't no priest. He was a carpenter's son. He was doing these things here. He was washing people's feet and all. He wasn't no priest. But again, the writer wants us to understand is what is it that priest did? What can that priest do for you other than temporarily cover your sin by using the blood of a lamb and all? And so all that lamb could do was temporarily for a year cover your sin. But we're talking about a guy that come down who's the true priest that was able to use his blood to atone for your sin forever versus something that's temporary. And so again, that writers want us to understand there's a difference from the arguments that they were having, about these minor issues here that said, well, I'm going to discredit what this guy did and who he is, or I'm going to say that you're not fully a Christian because you haven't went through all these things. But let's dig down to the truth of this thing. And these people didn't truly understand the truth. And so that's what we're trying to get the audience to understand in Hebrews. We're speaking to a group of Romans that Rome, was a large, occupied, quite a bit of everything at that time. Again, they were allowing people to worship and practice as they pleased. And as these people were doing that, and as well, some were putting themselves above others and all, and talking about the sacrifices and all that they had given, for this upstart religion and all. And the writer, and we'll talk about that here in a second, references, well, if this is the case, how many of you, because you're trying to equate yourself to Moses or Aaron or Abraham and saying, I'm equal to this guy, how many of you can say that you can equate yourself with Jesus and said that this is what he did, and this is the ultimate sacrifice he gave for the beliefs that he was doing? How many of you can say that? We're talking about the things that we gave up, and I should be above someone else, but no one had chosen martyrdom at this point and all to do that. And so let's equate ourselves and saying that we stand above others. Well, how many of you can say this is on your resume? He says, wherefore, seeing, if there's anything I left out, they also mentioned that the angels, people were worshiping angels, and I think that's happened quite often and all. And we would see that in the Word, and this angelic being come down and delivered a message to so and so, and people were prostrating themselves in front of these angels and all. And we realize we have a fallen angel that also wanted to be worshipped, but it's important that we don't worship angels. These angels are worshiping God also, and so we should be. We are a different creature that also worships the same God. We shouldn't be worshiping these angels. And so, no, Jesus didn't worship no angel, but those angels worshiped him. And so as we're talking about, all these different things we want to strive to be like, that was an important piece he brought in as well. All right. So he says, wherefore, seeing we also are compassed about with so great a cloud of witness, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which doth so easily beset us. Let us run with patience the race that is set before us. Well, they say a lot in that verse, and one could probably preach a sermon, teach a lesson just on what's in there.
Oh, yeah.
That's heavy, isn't it?
Brother T, today, when he said there was so cloud of witnesses.
Yeah.
Remember chapter 11, now faith is something that talks about all the way through Samson, Abraham.
Brought up all their names, started with Abel, I think, on there, yeah.
And so it's continuing in the end of it now. All those witnesses we don't talk about. And when we're running the race, and I know you was a track man, I was a baseball player, you got to do it with patience. Patience. Because you'll burn out trying to run that thing too quick.
Yes, sir. As he mentioned in chapter 11, the writer mentioned numerous people from history who ran a good race, and they used faith as their guide. And started with Abel, and we realized that even with those first two sons and all, and one had given a greater sacrifice than the other brother did and all. And so let's start with why he did that. It wasn't about works. It wasn't about him earning anything, but it was about because he had faith and he did this. And then the writer goes on to list all these others. So these are witnesses of what true discipline is supposed to look like. And so as the writers want to use that as an example of all this crowd of witnesses, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. So these people were examples of stripping off things that slowed them down. Let us also then strip off the things that are slowing us down. It's easy to say that, but all too often we say, man, that means I'm giving up who I am. You're giving up what I got. So I'm supposed to, that money is what makes me, and I'm supposed to give that up, or that clout is what it is, or so those things sometimes is what leads people into sin. And it's to say that just because you follow Christianity doesn't mean I got to give up my title or give up my money, not to say that. But if that's what is causing you a problem, then you might need to re-examine. And that's where the issue was, is if that's what's slowing you down, maybe you need to strip that weight off of it.
But I was good at it.
Especially the sin that so easily trips us up, and let us run with endurance the race God has set us. So every person has different traits, characteristics, and Satan knows our weaknesses. He knows your Achilles heel, as to speak. He knows how I'm a trip up Wilburn versus how I'm a trip up Benton and all, and say, hey, I know this is what's going to get him, and let me go get him with it, because he doesn't want to let this thing go. He's keeping it right there instead of as he says, is to strip that weight off of us. We've got to take that thing off and not put it in the back of the closet, but we gotta go throw it in the trash and get rid of it. But sometimes you say, well, I might get back in this. I'm gonna lose them extra 10 pounds. I'm gonna get back in this thing. So I don't want to take that off and get rid of it yet, you know. But sometimes we go slip that thing back on and we put the old us back on. And what he's telling us is you got to get rid of that. Looking into Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. And so once you remove what makes you who you are, sometimes we have an identity crisis, right? And so then we're trying to figure out, well, then where do I fit in? And so if I've stripped off this thing that's easily besetting me, and this is what I turn to for comfort, well, I'm open now for things to be shot at me to say, hey, he's looking for a home. He's looking for something that he can hold on to. And then you start getting things brought in that might not be right. And so what is it then that I need to turn to if I stripped off this other identity? I stripped off that flesh. He says, look to Jesus, who's the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is set down at the right hand of the throne of God. So we talk about these people in chapter 11 that we strive to be like. But let's look at what they described that Jesus did here just in verse 2, that he got rid of immortality. Well, he didn't get rid of immortality, but he left from heaven and was able to do these things. But he was we know what we're talking about. You know, he was sitting up in the good road there, you know, not having to be, you know, think about going to watch something and you're sitting in the presidential seats at the stadium and all, and you say, man, I don't have
right now.
Let me use a different term. It's funny because I was looking at those Cowboy Stadium and thinking about going to a game and all, and you look at those seats and the prices and all they have, and you know, if you say I want to sit in an executive suite so I can get a good view and all, and you get the nicest of amenities and all, it's about paying $1,000 a ticket, you know, per person and all, versus I want to sit in a general admission seat, you know, that is a reasonable fee, you know, that was like around $250. You talk about sitting on up, you know, and so it's like, man, wait a minute there. But we're talking about Jesus was in the executive suite.
Yeah.
And he left the executive suite and all to come down and do this, you know, and not only did he leave the executive suite, but look at the death that he had, the most horrific, most disgraceful death. How many people, the writer is saying, would you give up sitting in the executive suite? First of all, just to come walk amongst the commoners. And not only that, but you say, well, what? He lived a selfless life, lived his life for others, gave up all of this stuff and says, I'm going to serve other people. And not only am I going to serve others, but I've done nothing wrong, and I'm going to go die the most humiliating death possible. And while he could have taken himself down off that cross, and Satan tried to get him to, he said, well, if you're truly the king, won't you take yourself off that cross? He could have. He endured till the end.
Amen.
Because it wasn't about him, it was about us. And now it says he's sitting down at the right hand of the throne of God. And so we too need to use this as an example of if someone could give up sitting in the executive suite and come live a life for other folks and get the most humiliating death possible, and then look at what his reward is. Truly, I should want to emulate that, right? I got to give something up that's going to hurt. It's just like with working out, they say, you know, in order for you to change and you change your body and all and this and that, you know, you got to work out till it hurts. You know, some folks go through the motions and all. They say, well, I've been walking 3 days a week. And I'm walking about 1.5 miles, and that's about it and all. And if you ain't hurting, yeah. He says, for consider him that endureth such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest ye be wearied and faint in your minds. Hostility. I'm I'm gonna read the New Life translation of that. Think of all the hostility he endured from sinful people. Then you won't become weary and give up. If he was truly crucified like that, you know, people that didn't so much follow everything, or they were skeptical anyway, and say, man, you know, some of these crowds, I'm sure, were simply going just like the Sanhedrin was going, just to see, man, that guy ain't truly as perfect as they say he is. I want to go see him slip up. And so, you know, you got these sinners might be sitting there looking at it and said, man, I knew that guy was a phony.
You know, somebody keep telling a lie on you here
Yeah.
on earth, we're going to want to defend ourselves and say, I didn't say that.
That's why some of them show up at funerals, huh? Some people don't truly go and want to be, you know, there for the right reason, but they say, man, yeah. Not everybody's is likened with Christ like us, you know. So he says, ye have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin. So again, that's kind of what I mentioned earlier, is some of the things that people were saying that they've already done. They haven't went to this level yet to where they've had to be killed, you know, give up their own blood and all, because they've been going against sin. So they might have given blood for something else, you know, for their own money, but they hadn't done it for this reason. For ye forgotten the exhortation which speaketh unto you as unto children. My son, despise not thou the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when thou art rebuked of him. And so think back to when you were a child and you were just learning the word. And remember how when your parents were bringing you up and all, and they did these things, and they said that it's going to hurt me more than it hurts you. And you say, but what are you talking about it hurting you more than it's hurting me? I'm the one getting the whooping. But we realize that because our parents truly loved us, they didn't spare the rod, and they wanted to correct us so that we wouldn't continue to make those same mistakes. So too, we have a Father that also doesn't spare the rod, because he considers us children and doesn't want us to continue making the same mistakes. Imagine that we serve a God who claims to be our Father, and we're his children, and he doesn't correct. And people just continue to sin without, and do you quit sinning because you don't get corrected? You say, well, ain't nothing happened to me, so this must be good. I must be okay. I can continue to revel in the flesh. But that's how we know we serve a God that truly loves us. And when you truly love someone, you're not worried that they're temporarily mad at you, upset with you because you're having to mete out some consequences. We love them more in the long term. We all now have obviously not kids anymore. We look back on the things we might have done when we were in our younger years, and our parents done those things to us, and I might have hated them for 5 minutes when they were doing it, but we look back now and we thank God that Daddy did this to me. Thank God that Mama kept me from these things. It says, for whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth. If ye endure chastening, God dealeth with you as with sons. For what son is he whom the Father chasteneth not? But if ye be without chastisement, whereof are all partakers, then are ye bastards and not sons. So consider this. If you don't get consequences like every other believer, maybe you're not part of the family. Ain't that heavy there? As you start thinking about that, you say, wait a minute. So some of these folks have received some correction and all, and I'm trying to say I hadn't. Maybe some folks might say, well, it's because I'm better than so-and-so. That's why I ain't got nothing. I ain't done the sins they done, so maybe it's because you ain't part of the family.
Joke.
Yeah. Folks hadn't thought that angle, have they? There's no perfect man on earth. And people try to say that one sin is greater than the other. They say, well, it's because he sinned greater than me. That's what he is. He did such and such sin, and I only did this one and all. That's why I ain't getting no consequences. sin is sin. Sin is sin. It says, but if ye be without, I read that one. Furthermore, we have had fathers of our flesh which corrected us, and we gave them reverence. Shall we not much rather be in subjection unto the Father of spirits and live? There were people that were trying to go backwards. They said, well, if these are the things that's going on, well, maybe I don't need to follow this religion anymore. Maybe I need to go do this. And so, again, he was trying to get them to understand as well, you want to go back and follow a different religion now, but because maybe things aren't playing out the way you thought they were going to play out, or think about, let's compare these other religions you might have been following to this religion that you started in here, and look at what you gain out of this, and look at the relationship you have, the sonship. I've got this father that cares about me and all, and what other religion is going to treat you as a son? You worship Zeus or whoever these other gods might be, and do they ever once say that we're family? No, you just spend a lifetime of worshiping and giving and doing this and revering them, and at no point is there ever anything to signify that you're on a equal level, or we're kinfolk, or we're all in this together. But you serve a God who says that this is my house. You're my son. And I'm going to give to you because you're my son. For they verily for a few days chastened us after their own pleasure, but he for our profit, that we might be partakers of his holiness. God chastened us so we be partakers of his holiness. So if there's ever any question of why it is that I might be receiving the consequence that I'm getting, God doesn't give you anything more than you can withstand, and that's with temptation or with the consequence. So a lot of times we say, man, I can't deal with the consequence he gave me. That consequence is to refine you. And once you're refined, you come closer to being holy. No chastening for the present seemeth to be joyous, but grievous instead. Nevertheless, afterwards it yieldeth the peaceable fruit of righteousness unto them which are exercised thereby. Again, when we're going through it, nobody's going to say that, boy, I sure enjoy this punishment I'm getting. Yeah, give me some more of that.
Good fruit out of it.
Yeah. It's not joyful when we're going through. But after we went through the fire, after we purified that negative side of ourselves, we look back and we say, man, I can't believe I acted like that. I can't believe I made that mistake. I can't believe I said that thing to that person. I can't believe I pulled that old flesh out of the closet over there and put it back on. I'm glad this happened to me. Wherefore lift up thy hands which came down in the feeble knees. So if we lift up our hands and we're lifting it up to God and we're thanking God for what he's doing, then at some point they must have been like, man, heck with that. Ain't receiving nothing. Kind of what people do, that motion, heck with that, I'm going over here. Let me go put my hands and give me that. Give me that instead. But we normally lift our hands up here because we're receiving glory from God. He's bestowed so much upon us, and we should be lifting up thanking him. It says, make straight paths for your feet, lest that which is lame be turned out of the way, but let it be rather be healed. Anytime I hear that terminology, I always think back to Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz, and think about the yellow brick road. It's a good analogy. And we think about the fact that you're supposed to follow that yellow brick road, and it's going to lead you to the wizard, and all. And we think about in life when God has laid out something for us, and he says, just follow my plan and get here. And how often do people stray and step off that yellow brick road and say, but it looks prettier if I go this way, or it looks like we all too often in life make those similar decisions and all, and we step off the yellow brick road. And what he's saying is, if you continue to make straight that path and cast off all those decisions that's causing you to look to the right and look to the left, we will make it to our ending place. That, my people, is what discipline is. Amen.
Comments? Questions, comments? Not we.
Hey, I got,
Oh,
I'm putting like last week, topic. It's certain like, you got, say like, church personnel. Can I teach you about something about the Lord? You know, you get, say like, church personnel. Can I teach you about something about the Lord? You know, you get your head in the Bible, like Hebrew, and say, I said, that's the devil, trying to get it me, got changed me around. What is your thought about that?
Study to show yourself approved. Man.
Don't let them get you.
And don't let, yeah. You take care of you. Some people are at a level where they can deal with the conversations and from other people, and sometimes we just need to state ourselves and build ourselves up first until we get to that level where we can deal with Satan, because that's just Satan trying to get you. So take care of you. Continue to build upon yourself.
And I want to myself, I just pray for him and said,
The devil know how to push you.
Amen.
quick.
is that it? Anything else?
That's it.